greatest year. You had the best year we've ever had last year. We're going to have the best year next year. We're set for it. It's a choice between a deadly Biden lockdown. He wants the lockdown. We're never locking down. Or a safe vaccine that ends the pandemic. And we, frankly, we're going to end it anyway. The vaccines are coming.
Okay, so Trump is providing an actual choice here, right? He's talking about policy preferences. But for Democrats, understand it's not about the policy, it's about man. And so Anthony Fauci has lent his support now to this. And as I've said before, I've been, I think, quite willing to listen to Anthony Fauci and his statements. I've said all along, Anthony Fauci engages in single-factor analysis. The single-factor analysis is, how do I prevent COVID deaths under any circumstance? And if that means that I lock everybody's front doors and I weld them in their houses, essentially, then that's what we should do. Right? Anthony Fauci has been, from the beginning, about single-factor analysis. He has not looked at the downside of lockdowns, really. He refuses to talk about the downside of lockdowns. When he does so in vague terms. He suggests that masks are capable of doing more than they are capable of doing. And now, he's very upset at Trump, and he's speaking out publicly, like in the days before the election, about how much he dislikes Trump. Listen to the way that he poses this, Anthony Fauci, and this is according to the Washington Post. President Donald Trump's repeated assertions the United States is rounding the turn on the novel coronavirus have increasingly alarmed the government's top health experts, who say the country is heading into a long and potentially deadly winter with an unprepared government unwilling to make tough choices. We're in for a whole lot of hurt. It's not a good situation, Anthony Fauci, the country's leading infectious disease expert, said in a wide-ranging interview late Friday. All the stars are aligned in the wrong place as we go into the fall and winter season, people congregating at home indoors. We could not possibly be positioned more poorly. Well, actually, I think that there are ways we could be positioned more poorly. For example, what if hospitalization rates weren't down 80%? What if we were seeing spikes in all of the southern states, like the spikes that we saw in New York originally, which were not there, by the way? What if New York were seeing a second spike, like we've been seeing in New York originally? That didn't happen. In fact, as it turns out, the best guarantee of having a massive second wave is to have a very small first wave. The harder you lock down, I've been saying this for months, the harder you lock down in the first place, the worse it's going to be when you release the lockdown. This is what you are seeing all over Europe. Fauci said the United States needs to make an abrupt change in public health practices and behaviors. He said the country could surpass 100,000 new coronavirus cases a day and predicted rising deaths in the coming week. Okay, that's true. He spoke as the nation set a new daily record Friday with more than 98,000 cases. As hospitalizations increase, deaths are also ticking up, with more than 1,000 reported Wednesday and Thursday. Fauci's blunt warnings come as Trump has rallied in states and cities experiencing record surges in infections and hospitalizations in a last-ditch effort to convince voters he successfully managed the pandemic. Fauci said that, and here's where he gets to this, hard to know. Fauci said former VP Joe Biden's campaign is, quote, taking it seriously from a public health perspective. Trump, Fauci said, is looking at it from a different perspective. He said that perspective was the economy and reopening the country. Okay, well, it turns out that you have to actually take into account both of those things. Right? You can't ignore the economy and reopening the country by looking at it only from a quote-unquote public health perspective. There are public health consequences to locking people down for years on end. There are public health consequences to shutting down the schools. There are public health consequences to the kind of policies that Joe Biden is promising them to. But of course, Fauci is now lending his support to the idea that only Biden is taking this stuff super seriously. And then Trump, of course, falls directly into the trap of saying maybe he can fire Anthony Fauci. Now, the reality is that Anthony Fauci should have a very specific role inside the government. His role inside the government should be to talk about the dangers of the virus. Okay, but he was immediately put out front. This is a mistake. He was immediately put out front to talk about COVID policy. That is not his job. He is not the policy guy. Because the policy guy is supposed to be the person you will like. Nor is it a solution to say, as Joe Biden does, that you're just going to shut everything down. Nonetheless, Trump being drawn into a late-minute battle with Fauci is exactly what Democrats have wanted since March. Here was Trump at a rally, suggesting he's going to fire Fauci after the election, which is a bad closing pitch, considering Fauci is more popular than the president by polling data.
Don't tell anybody, but let me wait till a little bit after the election.
But this all plays into the media's general narrative about COVID. And again, the media's narrative is that religious narrative. That's also Joe Biden's narrative. It's not about policy. It isn't. Okay, remember, Joe Biden's actual stated policy is no different than Donald Trump's, except he says masks and lockdown for it. Okay, but the media have bought into this. So here is Chris Wallace over the weekend, suggesting, hasn't Trump failed at containing the virus? Well, hasn't everyone failed at containing the virus? I'm sorry we couldn't transform the United States into a small island nation like New Zealand. I'm sorry that a country of 4 million people in a lightly trafficked area of the world is not the same as a country of 330 million people the world on planet Earth. My bad. But this media narrative is a lie. It is a lie that has been promulgated, and it's a lie that they're going to use to try and pluck Trump out of office. There was Chris Wallace pushing it.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, the government's top expert on infectious disease, tells the Washington Post today, we're in for a whole lot of hurt. You could not possibly be positioned more poorly. He says he hasn't spoken to the president since early October. Corey, hasn't the president failed at his biggest job this year, containing the virus?
Okay, that question is so loaded. No one has contained the virus. Germany hasn't contained the virus. The UK hasn't contained the virus. France has not contained the virus. The hell is he talking about? And by the way, again, if you look at the states that are experiencing upsurges right now, they're all the states that did not experience an upsurge in the first place. So basically, once it burns through an area, it's burned through the area. I've been saying that for months, and it seems to continue to be the case. If you look on a county-by-county basis, the places hardest hit the first time are the least hard hit the second time. So what kind of policy are you recommending that's going to be good? And here's the reality. Joe Biden isn't recommending a policy that's going to be good. And so Joe Biden just puts out these faith-based insane statements. Joe Biden literally tweeted this out over the weekend. Ready? I'm not going to shut down the country. I'm not going to shut down the economy. I'm going to shut down the virus. How to put this bluntly? How to put this genteelly? Both. And I'm going to shut down the virus? How, you going to fart on it? How are you going to shut down the virus, Joe? Really? I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear how Joe Biden is going to and if he knows the answer, then what exactly is the answer? If he's got it hidden in his back pocket right there to shut down the virus, how? Explain. Like, really, detail for me. How are you going to shut down the virus? The answer is the entire media infrastructure, and bolstered by Fauci, saying that Biden takes it very seriously. Their argument is that once Trump is out, then the virus will wane. Okay, he's not going to shut down the virus because no one is capable of shutting down the virus. The hell are you talking about? We can't transform ourselves into New Zealand. We can't transform ourselves into South Korea. We're not going to well people into their houses. Europe is getting hit worse than we are. It's amazing how the media went from Europe is handling this exactly right. We should be handling this exactly like Europe to Europe, never heard of Europe. What is Europe? Is Europe a continent? Who is Europe? It's like they just come, Europe is gone. It's incredible. Europe for months was, why can't we handle this? Why can't we handle this? Why can't we handle this like French or Germans? We should be handling this like the Europeans. Then they spike worse than we are. It's like, I've never heard of Europe. Europe is not a place. Europe is an idea. Europe is a fantasy. It's all nonsense. No, Joe Biden isn't going to shut down the virus any more than Joe Biden is going to moonshot cancer. He's been saying that for years. I'm going to create a moonshot. Really. Because it turns out that most of humanity has apparently not been focusing sufficiently on trying to stop cancer. It turns out that we've not been spending billions of dollars to try and stop cancer. Joe Biden's going to do it. He's going to get in office, and he's going to stop death. Joe Biden is going to stop death. Again, he can't stop himself from falling apart, but he can stop death. That he can stop. If you believe this, it's because you wish it to be true. You are wish casting this crap. Over the weekend, Joe Biden tried to explain how he was going to shut down the virus. He was going to push a national mask mandate he himself has said is unconstitutional.
We're going to act to get COVID under control. On day one of my presidency, I'll put in action a plan I've been talking about for months, already laid out. A national mandate. Mask wearing, social distancing, testing, tracing. All things, as President Obama just said, it should have and could have put in place months and months ago.
All the things, masking, they have in Europe. Okay, testing and tracing they have in Europe. You know what? You know what happened with testing and tracing? Nothing. It turns out the only way you can test and trace is if case count is low and there's no community spread. I'm eager to hear from Joe Biden how he plans to test and trace in a country with 100,000 new infections a day. Seriously, really, really eager to hear about it. How he's going to test and trace. Does he plan to employ all 330 million